Welcome to Big Coach Brain Cancer's workout routine that is going to be taught to anyone who is interested. So today I am going through half for myself, probably a little bit more for someone who's actually watching. It is a bodybuilding circuit routine rather than a circuit, and it's specifically for the muscles of the back and the associated muscles with them. So the reason I've split my routine into two things. So sometimes it's known as push-pull, meaning that let's just for simple sake go like the back half of your body, so your hamstrings, your glutes, your latissimus dorsi, your biceps, all the things that are used for pulling something towards you as opposed to pushing something away from you. And I split that into two further segments, which is one is for strength and one is for just making the muscle larger. So I'm going to be cutting some of the exercises out because I don't need to have my legs larger. That's going to be bad for running a marathon. Making my arms and back bigger, that's not going to be particularly an advantage, but there's no computer game character that looks like they couldn't win an arm wrestling match, so I have to keep my physique image palatable. I don't know. I need to look the part. I need to look the fucking part. But I'm just going to change this over, and this will be gobbledygook to everybody because this is for me, not for a lot of people, but I'll just sort of show it here. So when you see, that means squat, BB, bodybuilding, and then the list of the exercises. So what we're on here, this is deadlift, BB. So that means a deadlift is more of a pulling exercise than the squat, which is a pushing exercise. And then here are the exercises. So I'm going to be doing deadlifts, pull-ups, rows, trapezius rises, and then something called hammer curls, which is for your bicep. So the muscles that are being used here are deadlifts, pretty much all of them nearly. Everything on your posterior chain. I'm not going to explain that. Go look up what the posterior chain is if you're interested. A pull-up, all the muscles on your back and your biceps as well. A row, similar to the pull-up but at a slightly different angle, so it hits the muscles differently. Your trapezius muscles are the muscles here, and they're particularly strong. They're for lifting things up like this, for carrying your shopping bag from Tesco. And hammer curls are just a normal bicep curl, except instead of lifting your arm up like this, it's slightly more difficult because your forearm gets involved because you've got to hold the weight like so. So I'm not going to turn it like I normally would because it might spill, but that's how you lift something up, and so your grip is needed because you're fighting against gravity with your hand. So that's what we're doing. That's why I'm doing it. I'm just going to leave out the deadlifts. I'm not going to do them as hard because I do not need bigger legs. I could use with smaller legs to do the marathon because they wouldn't be chafing against each other, but I do still need to look the part a little bit. And also I need to lighten the chassis up, so fat needs to go away. So this is another way of burning off calories without running, because if I do that every single day, that's probably going to lead to an injury. I need to have some spacing where my body can recover slightly. And then also building up muscle is the same way as making a car's engine larger. It will require more fuel. So if my body requires more fuel, then that means if I maintain eating the same amount, it will use my fat for what it's made for, what it's put on my body for, which is a form of fuel. So that's the reason why I'm doing it. You can do it because you want to look good. So we are going to do this at a slight angle, so you're hopefully able to see as much of my body as is required for this. So your bum goes out, your upper body goes as low as possible. Make sure you try and keep the S in your back. You don't want to bend it up like this. The weights act like balls that are attached to chains used in deconstruction, wrecking balls. So your arms don't pull up the weight, your body does. So get nice and low down, try and keep the S in your back as much as possible. There'll be a bit of difficulty in this if you're as tall as I am. And then drive your hips forward and then lower them the exact same rate. So first thing is your bum goes out and then you start lowering down under control. Make sure that your knees are going out, not going in. Alright, so we're going to get started. Because I'm not focusing on this as much as I usually would. Usually I would do reps of 10. I'm just going to do 5. So this is basically just a warm-up. Just get my legs fired up. And because your legs are the biggest muscle in your body, what ends up happening is a large amount of testosterone is then flooded throughout your body. This doesn't matter if you're male or female, happens to both. And then what it is often described as is like you're turning all the light switches on in your body. So even though this is mostly going to be an upper body workout, it will still benefit from you getting the blood flowing in the rest of your body. And so after I've done my 5, because we're doing bodybuilding, I am going to have 60 seconds 60 seconds of rest. Now when I do the exact same exercise but do it for strength, I do one exercise and then change to another exercise and change to another exercise. So I do them like a circuit, whereas this one I do them one by one, because you want to target the muscles that you're trying to make larger through something called hypertrophy. And the way you do that is you give them set amounts of time to rest and then move on to the next one. If I was to do them at the circuit, you would still get muscles getting larger, but you wouldn't target them with sort of specific timings. So this is for getting muscles with a priority of getting them larger rather than a priority of getting them stronger, even though there's always going to be crossover in both. So remember, I'm only doing 5 because I don't want this is just a warm-up for me. So hips nice and low, try to keep the S in the back, head up looking tall. Helps keep the back in the line that you want. If you don't look up, what can happen is your shoulders can roll forward like that. So looking up helps. It's not fully necessary, but it helps you keep in the position that you need to be in with a little less mental effort. So if you are new to doing deadlifts, that's a little trick to make sure your position is right. Or if you're like me and you haven't done them in a while. The last time I did strength training or resistance training, which is by bodybuilding and strength training, it's all of them combined in, it's under one flag. The last time I did resistance training was the 2nd of August, and it's now the 21st, maybe the 22nd. So yeah, all focused on running, and a lot of my upper body and my muscles have already started to get smaller, which is ultimately not a bad idea, but I want to lose the fat first and then lose the muscle afterwards. Because losing the muscle at the same time as losing the fat means that the fat won't go away as quickly. If I keep my muscle that stays will burn more fat, so it'll happen easier. So we're going to do 4 sets of each exercise, so this is onto the 3rd. If you are doing this for 10 though, it would be good to do an extra one at the very start of 5 and then do the 4 of 10 afterwards, because that would act as a warm-up, a safe warm-up. Hips go down, head up, and drive the hips forward, and then back down. Don't try and pull the weights up with your arms. Remember, the weights are wrecking balls. The chain doesn't move the wrecking ball, the crane does. And your body's the crane, your arms are the chains. So 60 seconds. So just wait till that turns to 4:45. And after this, I'll move on to pull-ups. Now, pull-ups, I am going to be aiming for the bodybuilding with that. So that means that the rep ranges you want to try and get up to in and around 10 to 12. That's the best for bodybuilding. So for me, I will be using a little rubber band. And even though that's making me lighter, it's going to make it more effective for bodybuilding. For strength, unless you are very poor at pull-ups, or if you're female, it's often quite hard for women to do pull-ups because the upper body tends to get less developed naturally. Use a resistance band for that to try and help elevate you up, and you can make progress strength-wise. But for guys who are strong enough to do it, they might be fat, they might be too fat to be able to pull themselves up. Once you can do one, if you're just going for strength, don't add the resistance bands in. So this will be the last set for me. Hips go down, angle your body back up, and if you can, there's a I know I'm going over time here, but just for explanation's sake, there is a window of my door that's opened up here, which causes a bit of a reflection. So I always do this in whenever I'm in a gym. I will, if they don't have a mirror that I can look to the side, I'll take my phone out and just place it on the ground and record myself. It looks a bit like an egomaniac thing, but it's just to make sure that I'm always checking that my back is arched in the correct way and that my form is good, because otherwise you end up with a million problems. Bad hips, lower back pain, you name it, you can get it from doing deadlifts and squats in the wrong way. Particularly at the end rep. So let me just check I'm all lined up the right way using the reflection, and yeah, good. Not great, good. So next exercise is pull-ups. So this one's going to be hard. That was just a warm-up what I was doing out there. Normally it is hard, but I'm looking after my legs. So lockdown, loads of people have pull-up bars. If you don't, I don't know, figure it out. So with the band, what you do is, depending on how much resistance you need, I just need a little bit to make it more potent. Bring it down to your foot. But that's not really going to work for the amount of space that I have. So into the knee, grip onto the hands, extend fully down. A proper pull-up, your elbows are straight. And then from here, up you go. Always start with a half set. 3, 4. So for time management, I've always found that that's the easiest way to warm your body up for what you're about to do. You don't need to start doing stretch this arm out this way, stretch that arm out this way, do a lot of jumping jacks. I think that's a complete waste of time. You set up what you're about to do, and then you do whatever you're about to do, but do half as much. So you're not stressing your body out, you're warming it up. And then wait 60 seconds and go into your working set, is what it's known as. So this time I'm going to try 8. Now I don't know how 8 might not be enough, because I am lighter even though my muscles are weaker. So I might need to do more, I might need to do less. Or I might be able to do more, able to do less. Get a good grip, most important thing first, and then try to keep the pacing the same up and down. Don't drop yourself down. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So that was good. For a first set, you shouldn't be struggling to finish your very last rep. That should be happening on the 4th set. So I'm pretty pleased with how much stress that's putting my muscles under. Unrelated, that zip was just in the wrong place. Always remember to be drinking water. I mean, your body will be telling you to do that, but if you ever think that somehow water is bad during exercise, get rid of whoever said that to you. And for the sake of being really specific about making it even, switch your legs up if you're using a resistance band. And away we go. Going for 8. Set number 2. Alright, it's definitely a lot of hard work. Might have to drop off before getting to 8 for the next 2 sets. Now, if you are brilliant at pull-ups, what you want to do is not necessarily do more pull-ups. It's do something called a negative. I'll go over a negative on the hammer curls. So if you want to know what a negative is, I'll give a good demonstration of what that is and how it works. It's basically you go up, when the hinge of the bone of the joint is getting closer, you go fast. And when the hinge is becoming more obtuse, you go slow. That's called a negative. I'll explain that scientifically later. Yeah, definitely feeling it now. So take a break and try to do the last 4. Alright, last 1. Oh well, that's humbling but expected when you haven't trained for 2 weeks or so. 20 days more like. I already start feeling my arms tensing up. Alright, Last set. Not a chance I'll be able to get up to 8 in this. I'll just do as much as I can. Three. Leave it at that. They're not good quality. So when it's not good quality, stop, because that's your ego trying to lift the rest. That's not particularly good for your muscles. So now, next exercise. This is another reason why I stopped before I finished out those 8. The next exercise hits the same muscles. A lot of them hit the same muscles. So there's no need to try and overdo one in particular, because then it'll just make the rest of them, you'll be doing them a little more shitty. Alright, so there we go. So this next one is a row. Hits the exact same muscles. Your lats, which are big muscles on your back, and your biceps, and the muscles in your mid-back. So try and get your torso as parallel to the ground as possible. You don't need to have your legs long or anything like that. Your hand goes out extended to give yourself support, so you can then hold weight on this side. And same reps are 8 to 12, 4 sets. So because the pull-up is so similar to the row, there's no need to do the half set that I explained for the pull-ups, because these muscles are already well warmed up. Transfer over to the other arm. No breaks in between. And then rest 60 seconds. And Christ knows I am going to be struggling a lot by set number 4. Normally I can do those much heavier and with more reps. But you listen to your body, especially when you haven't trained in a little while and you're coming back into it and you're blowing the rust off. Most of these exercises, the next time I do them, if I'm regularly doing them, which I should, hopefully I will, snap back. They will snap back to what they previously were. Snap is probably not the most fitting word, considering we're talking about muscles, but it will come back. It will spring back very quickly. All forms of fitness, if you have once had them, will always come back extremely fast. So don't ever feel disheartened if you were once strong and then you had an injury, and then when you came back you were an awful pussy in the gym. Just go back a second and third time and it'll come back. Never lift with your ego. Always lift with your body and listen to it. Alright, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. So this is a better angle, and so I'm just going to explain a negative form of lifting something. It's not quite a negative, but you'll sort of see what I'm talking about. So as you see, the way I lift the weight is I'll try to lift the weight up quickly and then lower it down slower. This is not just to protect the floor, even though that's obviously a reason why I'd be doing it, but you lower slowly and try to not let go of the weight at the bottom. So don't bring the weight down and then take your hand off. You should bring it down so that it touches the floor, but you are still in total control of the weight. You're putting a gram or two on the floor. You've got a complete handle on it. And just to go over, that's because your arm pulls it in, making the angle of the hinge more acute, and then down slower as it's become more obtuse. All right, here we go again. So up fast, down slow. Down slow, and just touch it against the ground, bring it back up. So we are not taking the hand off completely. We want our muscles to remain tense. Here we go. Now, do as I say, not as I do. That last rep, I let some weight off. But everybody makes little mistakes like that when they're lifting, because it's just what your body wants to do, not what your plan is in your head. So just try and correct it as quick as possible. But your brain always is telling you to stop. Especially if you're running. This was explained to me about, I think, Born to Run, the book Born to Run, which I'd highly recommend. Christopher something, it leaves me. How your brain is an efficiency engine. It's constantly saying, save calories, save calories, save calories. Don't do that, stop that. This is heavy, you should stop, you should stop. Even when it's got loads of fuel. Look at the amount of fuel. Look at the amount of fuel this fat pig has here. I do not need to stop. My brain is screaming at me. Have a nap, get a blanket. Why don't you have a shower? maybe a sandwich. As I shut the fuck up, brain. Records to beat. Diseases to cure. Two, three, five, six, 8. That's number 4. Whew. Now, I'm going to go on to the traps, and I'm really just going to do them as a demonstration rather as a form of bodybuilding, just because I dislocated my shoulder years and years and years ago, and it's been sort of needed a weight to actually click it back into place. It's been a little stiff, and I'd pick a weight up and it would go, and it would feel a lot better. And that happened while we were warming up. Took away, clicked it, and then that feels better now. It was a little stiff earlier, but I listened to my body. So are these trap raises really needed? No. So can they be cut out? Yes. Should they be? Yes. So do it. Don't need to have massive traps. So we'll go back to the heavy weights again and raise them up a little bit so you can see the movement of the shoulders. So you'll start, straight would be the best angle for this. So start the exact same way as a deadlift. A deadlift hits the trapezius muscles quite strongly as well, so this is just an added extra. Another reason why I'm not going to be doing it that much. 5 will be fine. So down we go, raise them up, and then once they're here, it's just like you're saying, I don't know. Are you gonna run a marathon in less than 3 hours? I don't know. Don't know if that was 4 or 5, so let's just do one more. And wait 60 seconds, and I'll do it again. Shoulder feels fine, so I'll do it a second time. See the clicks? They're not signs of unhealthy joints, even though it's often associated with the elderly. And there might be some truth to that, I'm not really sure. I've never done the research on that. I did the research for me personally and how my body clicks a lot. And what it is it's something called synovial fluid, which is the liquid that acts as a lubrication between your joints. And it can have a buildup of carbon dioxide, I think. And when you open the joints up, they've already clicked. There you go. When you open the joints up, which can happen from a knee, knees like this, and then as you go down, it opens up, and then the gas can pop out perfectly safely, and that's just the sound that you hear. It's not unsafe whatsoever, so long as it's normal. If it happens to you on a regular basis in the same joint, it's perfectly safe. If it's the first time it's happened ever, go to a physio, get it checked out. One, two, three, four, and last one for me, 5. Now back down, nice and safe. There you go. I do have a dodgy meniscus, but not on this one, and they both click. The other day after a run, my right knee wasn't clicking where the meniscus damage was, and it felt a bit stiff, which is really fucking worrying. Really worrying. It wasn't painful, but your meniscus doesn't have it doesn't have nerve tissue in it, so I'm very wary of it at the moment. But I mean, you gotta keep training regularly if you've got an important goal like me. You can't worry about your body. You have to listen to it, but you have to raise up risks versus gains. I'm never going to be able to break three hours unless I'm training on a regular basis. And you know, if I end up hurting my knee, I can always continue doing the fundraising for the marathon and do it in a wheelchair or something, or do it on crutches, depending on how bad it is, or just run it, but end up doing a terrible time, like 5 hours or something. Oh wait, stay up, not doing deadlifts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back down safely. Just make sure your bum is going back. Your spine is in its natural S position. And I'm gonna leave that. 3 is enough. I don't need to go to the 4th. Especially seeing as how this is the first time that I'm back at doing heavy-ish weights. Really need to be very, very cautious with that sort of thing when you're coming back. So we'll move on to the very last one, which is the biceps. So all about vanity curls. Alright, let's just murder that sentient being first. You inconvenience me, fly! So now you don't breathe. That is what happens. Lighting might be better from this side, so let's go this side. Yeah. Alright, terrible shadow there. Ah yeah, that looks a bit better. Right, so this is a particularly grim one because these light weights, to make them harder, you have to do the negative. Focus on the negative. And I don't mean optimistic. So bring them up, nice and easy, nice and slow, but then put them down way, way slower. So that's 1. And you only count to 2 on the way down. So that's 2. When it reaches my pockets, 2. So it's not 3 at the top like normally most people would. 3. So if you look this up, it's well spoken about, but not too well known in general. This is called tempo. The eccentric motion is this one. The hinge of the arms, the joint gets more acute, and then the concentric is the extension of the limb. Now I got distracted because I was explaining something there, but do not rest on the bottom. Keep your hands a little bit forward. If you go like this, the pressure is now off your muscles. You don't want that. You want the pressure always on. And the same thing at the top. Don't bring them up here because now they're resting. They're resting on my shoulders. My arms are on an angle where they're doing some work, but nothing like they are out here at an awkward angle. Just bring it down. I call that the rest period. So wait 60 seconds and do it again. I wasn't really keeping count there. Halfway between a set, halfway between a warm-up. So now I'm going to shut up a bit more and do 10. I'll go into the science of the eccentric and concentric movement. And why one is better for muscle building as opposed to strength. You want to focus on your strength like that sort of motion. Alright, here we go. One. Two. Three. Four. Five. Six. 7. 8. 9. So, your muscles are like hooks, and on the eccentric movement, where the joint is getting smaller, the muscles pass by each other like this. The hooks of the muscles pass by each other like this. However, on the concentric motion, where the joint is getting longer, the muscles are going in the opposite direction, and so they grip into each other, like so. Like, think about Velcro. It's a little bit like Velcro, poor man's Velcro. And so they grind against each other. This breaks the muscle apart, which then causes something called hypertrophy, which is the growth of the muscle. It's more tissue. Strength, slightly different. Similar, but not exactly the same. A bigger muscle is not necessarily a stronger muscle. There is crossover though. You're not going to find any weak bodybuilders. Six. 7. 8. Oh, Christ. 9. Oh, that's how you make an 8 kilo weight. For a 95 former rugby player, very, very heavy. Oh, just do it really slow. That'll make a bitch out of any man very, very fast. Schwarzenegger, he never made his weights that he was doing bicep curls with any heavier, allegedly, any heavier than either 20 pounds or 20 kilograms. Either way, you know, when you're the biggest man or the most muscular man in the world at time of recording, 20 kilos is light. I could do a 20 kilo bicep curl. Wouldn't be easy, but I could do it. Let's see. These are 25. Am I too tired? Or 22.5? Ugh. Not pretty. Not really a curl. But I have been warming them out. So you get the point. This is the last set. Last set, and then that's it. That's it for the day over. Even though I'm going to go running, but that's different. 1, 2. Eight. 9. 10. Oh, Christ on a fucking bike. Oh. So, after me saying no bodybuilders are not strong, I want you to go the other way and think about a mountain climber. And I think about how a mountain climber could quite easily beat, you know, one of the smaller bodybuilders, definitely. A small bodybuilder, someone like maybe, you're bodybuilding for a movie, you're in one of the movies, like you're Chris Evans or Chris Helmsworthy, and so your goal is not to be super strong, it's to be big and athletic looking. So you'd be building for bodybuilding, but you don't want to look like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's too big. So imagine how believable it would be that a professional rock climber was able to lift heavier weights than those boys are. And that's because they're training their nervous system. Your strength involves a lot more of your nervous system. And you can kind of think of it like electronics is a basic way to think of it. It's that it's just the wire to produce strength isn't not corrosive, isn't as conductive. So let's say it's made of something, I don't know a lot about electricity, so let's just say it's made of steel. Steel doesn't conduct electricity as well as copper. And then the more you train, the more copper gets around that nervous system. It doesn't necessarily make the muscles bigger, it makes them stronger. And that is Big Coach Brain Cancer's workout of the day and educational lesson for the day. So you don't need to go to St. Mary's University. I have, and you don't need to pay them fees, but you should still go because it's a fun fucking university. Right, so I'm gonna go out for a handy little light run. There's a little drizzle of rain, and if you've watched any of the videos, you know I love a bit of wet me. And but I'm just going to take a very, very easy one, just to sort of remind my legs that, you know, keep up the running. So I'm going to go from my door, handy pace, down around the park, and then back up to the door again. Very handy pace. 40 minutes would be under 40 minutes. So still, you know, you still can't take the piss, can't be sleeping on the job. So 40 minutes would be good. As I mentioned, if you watched my the earlier parts of this video in full, I mentioned that my knee was giving me a little bit of worry. So it's more that I'm doing this just to sort of test the water. So very, very easy going. Yeah, that's it. So, I just did a thing that I just know as door to door, where I start running straight away out the gate, all the way around the park and sort of back up the hill. And obviously, if you're starting from your front door, you should start slow, at least, because you're warming up. And knocked now I have changed the route slightly. There's a shorter way to get home that just avoids a crossing of a road, which is a pain in the hole if the cars if the cars are there, because it slows you down. That's not a natural slow down, so it fucks up your time and you don't know whether you improved or you didn't, which is irritating. So this should be faster anyway, because it's a slightly shorter route, probably only by maybe 100 or 200 meters, but that is a very, very slight personal best for that route. So that is an absolute result, I did not go out intending to go that fast, and I didn't go that fast or push myself that hard. I just was aiming to not stop and to really listen to my knee, which was fine, absolutely fine. So even if I wasn't, you know, flooded with a load of endorphins at this point and high as the national deficit, like, I still would be very happy with that time and the fact that my knee is not saying stop training. So big result today, very happy.